Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Hope everyone is staying safe and in good shape. I'm Ying. I will be the moderator of today. Today, we are glad to have architect Heng See Imm with us to share the joy of missing out Jomo construction dispute. We are also broadcasting the seminar live on our Facebook page, and feel free to share with our friends. However, there will be no CPD points for those who view via FB page. For those who have registered for CPD points and are in this meeting, please be reminded to jot down the sign-in code and sign-out code later. Okay, a little bit about architect Heng. Architect Heng See Imm is the principal of SI Heng Architect Penang. Ms. Heng is an architect by profession, and she has always been fascinated with construction dispute resolution matters. She's also currently an adjudicator, mediator, arbitrator, SIPA consultant, accredited building inspector, and expert witness in court. With the experience in dealing with construction dispute matters, she has reached out to the industry players by sharing and creating the awareness in the industry by providing advice in preventive action plan to avoid dispute and corrective action plan to mitigate dispute or resolution without involving complicated and costly litigation processes. She strongly believes that there is always a better way and platform in order to minimize an unnecessary stress and dispute in our life. So should you have any question during the talk, please type them in the Q&A box, and we will answer them in between some of the topics. So next, I will pass to our Pamnc chairman, architect Liao Guangzhong, to deliver his opening speech. Over to you, Chairman.
Good morning, all. Good morning, Architect Heng. Good morning, Zawa, and good morning, our panel. A very warm Friday morning to everybody. Hope everybody's safe and well. And on behalf of Pamnc chapter, I'd like to thank all the attendees, Gary's PXL and Co for hosting the event, the PAM's Secretariat for putting everything together, and thank you, Zawa, again for the opening speech. Thank you, Architect Kok Chong, our CBD chairman, for organizing the webinar. And last but not least, a big thank you to Architect Heng. Okay, I'll just say a little bit about kind of construction dispute. I mean, basically nowadays, I think construction contract and construction work are getting more and more complex. You know, jobs are getting bigger and so on. But is construction dispute avoidable? Perhaps Architect Heng will actually share with us the process and how to avoid it, really. Because I think settling dispute outside usually costs a lot of money and time, which we can all ill afford, really. So basically, I hope after the session by Architect Heng, most of us who have answers about whether we can avoid dispute or not will be answered. So I won't go too much talking. I'll let Architect Heng have the stage. Please welcome Architect Heng on the stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Architect Liao and Architect Zawa. And thank you for Pamnc chapter inviting me for the talk today. And happy to see you all here. And a very good morning to all of you tuning in. Let me share my screen first, then we shall start, right? Okay, can I confirm that you can see my screen, hear me clearly as well?
Yes, we can see yours.
Yep.
Thank you very much for your confirmation. Okay, let's get started. Right. So, Jomo in construction dispute. This is my title for today's talk. So, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to talk about Dr. Jomo. So, literally, the name Jomo comes from him. If you can see the name of him, right? Some of you may think, what is Dr. Jomo is going to do with construction dispute? But some of you may think, it's okay, I just sit down and listen. But for those who have the thought in mind, it's actually very good. It seems like you are not physically here with us, but you are mentally prepared for the talk today. Okay, of course, I'm not going to talk about Dr. Jomo. For those who don't know who he is, can please go and Google about him after my talk. Okay, let's get started. What is Jomo in construction dispute? why I want to share this topic with all of you here. What is the purpose of today's talk? Basically, because construction dispute is very wide. So as an architect, how are we going to expose ourselves to dispute? And how likely we are going to caught ourselves into construction dispute? So it's a very wide topic, but for today's topic itself, I just want to create awareness, a general spectrum that you will have in mind after my session, that how likely we'll caught ourselves into construction dispute, and then how are we going to opt out, right? Now, let me go through the outline with all of you so that you know what to expect from me for this about 2-hour session. So first, of course, we need to define what is Jomo, right? And then second, we'll do a reality check. And then third, I actually will share my own personal story. I have 2 stories to share, which is a wake-up call for me. I hope that you will actually learn something from it. And also, very important part, how am I going to avoid future dispute by having the story that I have went through? And how are you going to avoid future dispute as well? Of course, last but not least, I'll go through a summary so that you will recap what we have gone through for this 2 hours time. Right, get started for Jomo. What is Jomo? Right, maybe some of you may have thought already, because you already know the title up front. I should actually ask Pam not to reveal the full title, but I literally forgot to do that. Right, so Jomo actually is opposite of this, FOMO. You can see the picture of this lady, and what can you feel? What is the message that this lady want to get across to us through the picture that I'm sharing now? It's actually fear of missing out. A lot of people have fear of missing out in the society nowadays. A lot of people have fear of missing out, like people not tag them along. But in construction dispute, will you want to have a fear of missing out? Questions to ponder, okay? But I think it's very clear. The answer is there, that you will have the joy as what this baby have now. So Jomo is actually his joy of missing out. So this is the full title of today, Joy of Missing Out in Construction Dispute. Now back to the photo of the baby. Do you think they are genuinely happy? I use the word genuinely, which means that the joy comes from within, the happiness that comes from within without relying on anything. So can we architects have that kind of joy or not when we are having our own practice and also our own daily life, right? The answer is yes, but how? So let us all together on this. So the first topic we already covered, so you roughly have the idea what is Jomo. If let's say someone will miss out what is Jomo, then you can just Google it, all right? I do believe you can find the definition by Googling. So second, we'll go into reality check. In this Friday morning, I want you all to activate 100% of your brain cell, so that I am going to pose another questions to you, which you may need to think before you answer. So not to worry, the question is not as difficult as part 3, but as simple as is, if let's say you can pass your SPM or UPSR, you should be able to answer. All right. Now, headache and migraine is very common in our daily life. So when you are facing headache or migraine, what will you do? So I even have a multiple choice with you, right? A is I don't know. B is take Panadol and rest. So C, someone of you behind this camera may ask why, right? So you may choose your answer now. Because I'm alone here, I cannot have a physical training with all of you. So please let me understand what your thought is by clicking and typing in the chat box that what your answer is likely to be, so that I can understand where are you and what is your mindset now, right? Can please just type in the answer. I only see one. C, okay. B. Good. Architect Leah, you need Panadol. Okay.
Numb the pain.
Okay, all right. I can see a majority is choosing C, some of you B, and no one is taking A. I don't know, because obviously you won't say that I don't know. You have to do something. Just that Architect Leah will take on a Panadol and then we'll just rest, right? Okay, keep that answer with you. We shall revisit these questions at the end of my session. Okay, let's move on. Okay. Right. I think you should agree with me that construction dispute is just like a headache on my brain in our daily life. It may not give us the physical pain, but it somehow rather will affect our quality of life. It will cause us cannot sleep at night, right? I think to those who already having some experience as what I had, you should be agree with me with this. Now, as an architect, the questions we should ask ourselves when we crop into a construction dispute, actually we have to find answers and solutions by ourselves. Whatever we ask the peer, mentor, or senior, those experienced people who have already have some experience in construction dispute, how they deal with it, those are only advices. But again, the decision is still back to us. We are the one who going to make a correct decision at that particular moment, because no one is going to tell you whether it's right or wrong by taking that decision. So you have to take your own consequences. Now, we're always busy on designing. How many of us here really sit down in our daily life, or perhaps only once a week, to ponder over when dispute is likely to happen? When I said when, there are two spectrum here. One is when during your architectural career that you are likely to fall into a dispute. Is it during the early stage of your career, or is it at the late stage of your career? So when? Another question I will ask is, when likely you will caught into a construction dispute? When we are, how to say, managing a contract, a project. So project, there is a lot of different stages. So which stage unlikely you will actually caught yourself into construction dispute? These are the questions we should ponder over. And then where dispute will happen? As an architect, where dispute will happen on this? Is it only in the site? Only in developer company? Will we have a dispute with our own colleagues, our own bosses, subordinates? Right? Where? And with who? Of course, very clear, there are few persons that we can likely to have dispute with, be it developer, purchaser, end user of the these buildings. We are likely to put ourselves into a construction dispute. Now, after when, where, and who, the last question we should ask is why? Why only us will caught into a construction dispute? And why dispute happen at this particular stage, right? So these four important W you have to really ponder over. Now, I do believe now you have a broad picture of it. Let me go through this. Painting and tiling work. Do you think for a small project, painting and tiling work will actually caught you in construction dispute? How about renovation project? How about a new bungalow? And last but not least, of course, mixed development, which become complicated, right? So how likely we as an architect will caught ourselves into a dispute? So until now, you should have a broad picture on where the dispute will come to us unconsciously without we aware of. And I'm going to share with you my personal story. Actually, I have a couple of stories to share, just that I have no time. I only allowed for 2 hours, so I only can share two which I personally experienced it, and I hope that you can learn from it, which is a wake-up call for me. So I think life is very strange. To me, life will teach us the same lesson again and again until we wake up, until we learn something and we move on. And then that particular problem will not come back and haunt us anymore. So my first dispute is with a developer. I was appointed as an architect for a particular project, and you may think that how are you likely to caught yourself into a dispute? Perhaps it's because of design problem, defective material that you have been prescribed. But my case is quite rare. Perhaps maybe 1 or 2 architects may have this experience as what I had. Actually, something to do with architect's scale of minimum fees. So as I said, I was appointed by the developer for construction of 3-story terrace house, which is only 56 units, inclusive of DO and BP. DO is delivery order, and in Penang, we used to call it a layout plan and building plan, right? So the original contract sum is actually 140K. And if let's say you divide it per unit, it's only 2.5K per unit. It's far, far way below scale of minimum fees, okay? And this project, I have to submit 2 times of DO, which is layout plan, for approval. And why? I think the answer is very clear, is simply because the developer want to maximize the land, and they try to squeeze every single inch of the land they can in order to make more profit. So of course, as an architect, I will just do it as what I can. So I amend the first DO and then submitted and subsequent DO. Now, when DO submitted for the second time, get approval, I actually managed to get in 1 more unit of bungalow. I charged them for VO, which is 10K, still far way below scale minimum fees. So total revised contract sum has become 150K. So soon after I completed my job and get approval for DO and BP, I actually claimed not much from that. I submitted an invoice. I claimed for 28K only, okay? And I have a habit to put in the payment term in my invoice, which is 30 days payment term. Now, 3 months later, do you think I get my payment so easily? The answer is no. They not agree to the VO of 1 unit of bungalow. They said the price is too high, right? And they also want me to issue Form B before they can actually pay me according to what I claim. So as an architect, you know, once you issue Form B, the work can commence on site. So whether you get back your fees or not, there's another question. We won't know. No one can tell you, right? And this is only early stage of the project. So stop my payment. They literally stop my payment and ask me to work. Okay, so what will you do? Now, from the 3-story of terrace house, which have the VO of 10K, they actually ask for a discount, and they are willing to pay me for 4K. So the revised contract sum will be 144K in total. So with the condition, I must issue Form B to let the contractor commence the work on site. By then, I already finished off all my construction drawing, and in fact, tendered already called. So can you imagine the work that has been put on? And amount in dispute is very obvious. It's only 28K, which is not much for the developer, and even though for maybe big architect firm, but for me, I'm a sole proprietor. So to me, every single cent is meant so much for me to run my own practice. Now, a big dispute happened. We have a lot of argument along the way. Nothing can be settled. I also don't want to give way because I have no idea whether they will give me the money or not once I issue Form B. And I cannot agree with the VO of 4K for 1 unit of bungalow. Right. So the developer actually called me up to actually have a discussion. Initially, I'm very happy. At least they want to talk, right? So of course, I won't go with the empty hand. I get myself prepared. I've gone through all the scale minimum fees, and I also do my own homework, which I think is the best solution that I can have for that particular moment to prepare myself for the meeting. So I make a fees comparison in between my fees and scale minimum fees, and I even try to be smart, because when you prepare the fees comparison, right, is a big sum. 144K with the scale of minimum fees, almost 960K that I can get. It's a big sum. So I break it down after deducted all the anticipated expenses. So I break it down how much fees actually I collected per month from them throughout the whole this construction period. And of course, I raised the issue of liability, that we carry the liability the whole life. So long the building stand, so we are safe, right? So do you think they will buy my idea? Actually, no. I even told them, scale minimum fee is just like an apple. And now my fees is just like a langsat. So can you imagine the fees that they are willing to pay me is far, far way below scale minimum fees. Of course, I'm the one who created this problem in a way, because I agree to charge them far way below scale minimum fees, but that I caught myself into a dispute with them. Now, nothing happened. I just walk off, and obviously the negotiation or discussion failed. So times fly. I just move on with my life and busy with my own things. What happened was 11 months later, I received a love letter. Don't get me wrong, I'm not in love with Lisa. So this only a love letter. Get from who, you guess? It's from Lembaga Architect Malaysia. So this developer actually is very fed up with me because I didn't give in what they want. And in fact, I just don't want to talk to them anymore unless they pay me the 28K that I billed them, right? So what they claim is I simply charge without basis, and they want Lembaga Architect Malaysia to actually investigate, and then if can, to take disciplinary action on me. All right, so my questions to all of you here. With the mind that you will be taking disciplinary action by LAM, what will you do? So again, I'll give a multiple choice questions for this. You may say, I don't know what to do. Or you may say, I just admit my mistake to LAM. Or you may choose, I just submit all my evidence that I have to LAM. Lastly, you may just call up ABC developer and ask for a settlement with condition they have to withdraw the case from LAM. Okay, what will you choose? Please help me to type in the chat box so that I can understand your thought, because obviously it's very pity, very lonely here. I can't really communicate with all of you. So this is the only way I have to communicate and then learn how to actually get to know what is your thought. Okay, C, submit evidence, C. I see Architect Liao choosing D, right? C, okay, majority choosing C in fact. Okay, thank you so much for your answer. Okay, let me share with you what I have done. It actually took me some time to think. So I have this, I always have this worry in mind that what if, a lot of what if this happened, what is the consequences? What if that happened, what is the consequences? And what if I take this action, then what next, is going to come to me? I don't know, and no one can give me the answer, right? So I have to choose a very wise a pathway to get myself away from the dispute. So what I did was I spent about 4 days to do whatever I can. I have collected the voluminous documents that I have and printed out, make it bind as a bundle, right? So what I did was I sit down, I wrote the letter. First, I apologize first. There's a saying, if let's say you want to get permission to do something that is not lawful, I don't think so the permission will be granted lah. So, but it's actually easy to ask for forgiveness when you do something wrong. Although you have the intention, already, when you do something wrong, there are some consequences you need to take. But it's okay, at least ask for forgiveness. So I apologize first on my own mistake, right? And then I move on. I have to put down the chronology event because LAM is not in the picture of this dispute. So I don't know how they will think without knowing the background of it, without knowing the how is it, the whole things have been crop up, and then today, what is the situation today, which having the dispute now. So I have to brief them all those chronology events, and this takes a long time for me. Now, I also did a calculation of my own fees, and I also did a calculation for scale of minimum fees. At the same time, I submitted all the invoices that I have, which have been submitted to this developer, and how much they have actually paid me. Of course, you need to have some explanation to guide the officer to understand the whole things, what is happening now. And lastly, I pandai, I went and actually write an undertaking statement in my letter. I said that I undertake, I won't repeat the same mistake, and in future I will actually abide to scale minimum fees. So I don't know whether it's right or wrong, but it seems like for the result that I'm getting until I'm still surviving today, so means that I've taken the right action, right, so-called right action, because I'm happy with the result that I'm in now. So of course, when you get anything from LAM, there will be like the first submission to LAM to reply, they will forward your submissions to the developer, and then back and forth. Then they will ask you to comment again on the second submission made by the developer. So two replies. So how much time have I taken? Right? It's actually more than 4 days. Okay. When waiting for the result, I'm very kiasi and kiasu, that kind of thing, because I'm afraid that I may get disciplinary action from LAM. At the same time, I may not get back my money. So I go for SIPA. I sue my ex-client, so-called, with SIPA in order to get back my 28K. And on their side, they engage a lawyer to come after me. So when all this process is ongoing, I actually received a letter from LAM saying that the case dismissed. They think I'm doing the right thing. In fact, I'm charging far way below. So there's nothing that unreasonable. And I charge with the basis. Of course, I didn't comply scale minimum fees. So I'm happy with that. With that LAM letter, I managed to convince the adjudicator that I have a very strong case on this. This is a very strong evidence for me. So the adjudicator was actually on board. Is a lady. So I, in fact, very glad that I'm ready to go all out to claim back my money. But soon after the adjudicator on board, I received a phone call for the ex-staff of this developer. This ex-staff has become actually a close friend of mine. So she actually called up, and initially I didn't realize anything wrong. I was thinking she just got called up on the talk. So I just had a casual chit chat. So after some casual chit chat, they asked me, hey, See Imm, how are you good? How are you doing? How you cope with your work? That kind of thing. Then she come to the actual conversation. I said, okay, now I know why you call me. And she said, look, they only want a settlement with you. So will you mind to actually consider their proposal that I'm going to tell you? I immediately shut off. I said, no, it has been so long. If let's say they would have settled, they already settled it, and no need to go for the SIPA to actually get back my money. I'm struggling. In fact, 28K per month, and this case has been dragging more than 11 months. How much can I get? Right? So she kept on convincing me, said, you must have an open mind. So let's talk and let's see how can I help to help you to settle the dispute. So I was thinking, I also have no time. I said, okay, fine, we just talk and see how we can discuss. Then she tried to convince me in such a way that they offer me to actually pay me. But in my mind, I don't know how much they're going to offer me. They haven't, she haven't go into that detail. So I quickly have the subconscious mind is thinking, no, I want to fight back my justice. And I also want to fight for my own fairness, because I've done what I should do as an architect. And for all the project that I'm handling, actually I hands-on on the project. So I should be able to get back my money. I'm confidently to say that. So he said, no, actually they are very desperate to settle this with you because they need the site to start work immediately. It has been so long, and then they need to sell the house to the purchaser, right? So I said, well, please tell me what can they offer me. Okay, then she said, okay, they agree to pay me back the 28K, and with the cost. Of course, the cost is through some negotiation as well. I told her the truth, how much have I put in to actually get the case into SIPA. And on their side, they actually save on a lot of cost to not to get the case into litigation. Of course, I won't go so far because it's only 28K, right? So I know SIPA can help me, and I'm tested out also. Then she said, okay, get back to me. She will get back to me a few hours later. So, okay, it's true enough. She get back to me, and she said they agreed to pay me, but with condition. I must actually withdraw the case from SIPA, which is AIAC. I registered the case with AIAC. I have to withdraw the SIPA case from AIAC. And also, then they will pay me. So I said, no. Once I withdraw, if let's say they didn't pay me, what can I get? I get nothing as well. So I have to go all over again. I said, no, pay me immediately. I will do the necessary. So good enough. They pay me within 1 week. And after that, after getting the money, I actually issue a release letter, and the dispute settled. So I withdraw the case from SIPA as well. So I just move on in my life with that. Now, back to our questions of the Jomo in construction dispute. What is the lesson learned? For me, I've learned something which I should actually follow scale of minimum fees. Maybe some of you will laugh behind the scene that nobody will pay us as an architect if, let's say, we follow scale of minimum fees. I reserve that comment because I'm aware that the talk has been conducted by AR Izumi, I think some time ago, easily 3-4 months ago, about how we should calculate based on scale minimum fees, and then how we should actually adopt what has been putting up, ready to use, and convince the client in terms of the service that we are going to provide. That is a very fantastic talk. I don't know whether Pam have the recording or not to revisit, right? So I reserve my comment on this, and I'm still surviving after following this, right? So second, what I learned is in my letter of appointment, I add in dispute resolution clauses. I have SIPA clause. That was initial stage because I understand about SIPA. So I add in SIPA clause, which means whenever there is a dispute in between me and the developer or client, so we will actually settle the dispute through SIPA. So I also add in a clause that no discount will be given. They don't come back to me and say, yeah, I signed, but now I think back, I shouldn't sign it, and I should actually nego with you. Can you give some discount? No. So very straightforward. I cannot afford another fall, so-called fall, right? And the mistake that I have done for this particular project is I didn't put in a draft LOA and explain to them, ask them to sign off. So this is what I'm doing now in my new project, or engage with new people in the construction dispute matters that they get me as a consultant. So I actually put this in, draft first, let them comment, explain to them. If let's say they are okay with it, sign off the draft, only then I will issue out a original copy for them to sign. And lastly, I learned something, is the ability to walk away. Whatever dispute you are in, you must have some backup, and you must have the ability to walk away whenever things happen. So my questions to all of you here, what is Jomo in construction dispute that you have learned from this case? Now, I allow 5 minutes Q&A session. Architect Zawa, could you please help me to time the timing, because I'm mindful of the time as well. We only can have 5 minutes for this. So for whatever questions that I cannot address within these 5 minutes, I'll try to address it at the end of the session. So if let's say please put your questions in the Q&A box so that we can take some questions from there and have a fruitful discussion here. Because this is only my own experience, but I'm not too sure about how your experience, and then let's say you are in my situation, how are you going to settle the dispute? Or you have a better avenue, better way of dealing with it? Any questions?
So far there's no questions, but it's very enlightening and great sharing, especially on your experience and advice on clarifying everything in the letter of appointment. I think that is very important, that all of us put as many clauses in, so that in future, if there's any arguments, we can just bring this out, and rather than continue without anything, without any basis, but everything is clear, then there's a lot less argument.
For myself, I just try my best, because I don't know my way of doing things is the right way or wrong way. But at that time, I still cannot figure out how am I going to settle it. So since I'm into adjudication, so I just try my luck. That is actually the very first case I acting as a self-representing counsel, because I didn't engage any lawyers or claim consultant to help me on this. So all this while I'm acting as adjudicator, so I don't have experience to acting as a counsel to fight for party case. So I use my own case as a guinea pig to actually try it out. And yeah. Okay, I see some chat coming in. Okay, there's one from Muhammad Hussein saying that how could Lam dismiss the case when minimum skill? Yeah, that you have to ask Lam. I have no answer for that, because I am not the authority to answer that. Until today, as far as I'm concerned, Lam haven't taken any serious action against architect, which is not follow skill and fees. Perhaps it's only a rules to follow. It is not an act that actually can caught you, because by offending the law, act is a law, a governing law, you may actually, some disciplinary action should be taken, but this is only a rules. So perhaps the weight of that is not that much compared to an act, right? So this is my simple answer that I can give it to you. But don't try your luck, because I'm lucky enough, Lam didn't do anything, but I don't know, because my case was about 2014 that time. Yeah, it's quite early stage of my career. So perhaps until now, 2021, Lam should have do something. I wouldn't know, because after that case, I don't have any complaint with Lam that I didn't charge according to skill minimum fees. So I can't answer that whether any action has been taken by Lam or not. Or perhaps any one of you have any experience similar with me. Can you please share your thought on this? Okay, there's a question from Jeffrey Chia. Developers are too cunning, despite on payments will be invariably tied to supposed non-performance. Yes, yes. So I think, okay. My answer is everything we do, right? We are the one who taking control, you know. So try to do something which not to put yourself in such a situation. Of course, you can't project things that will happen, but at least you may actually give a thought on certain action you want to take. So action and reaction, right, is fair. So whatever action you want to take, you have to think ahead before you really take the action. With the small thoughts that you want to take the action, before you really take it, just sit down and think twice. And I have a habit, whenever I have all this so-called dispute or some hiccup, I will actually sit down and then with a plain blank paper, I will just write every single thing I have in mind, because your mind is very rojak, no? You have a lot of things, a lot of thought, but how to put that thought into a bigger picture so that you can actually visualize it. So this normally I will do, just sit down and think and then write it down. So if let's say you need advice, I will just contacted some mentor, right? So to actually let them understand my situation, and then how am I going to get myself out, that kind of thing. Yeah. So whatever the mentor give to me is only an advice. So I have to really settle it myself, whichever way I want to do it. I want to deal with it. I can see some comment by architect David Yak. if the pleading is that the architect is not issuing the LOR, it is entirely different thing. LAM cannot deal with issues not pleaded and within its jurisdiction. Architect David Yak sounds very legal. Okay, I can see another comment is from architect Boon Hock Lu. Ability to walk away is actually lies in the hands of an architect. Never fall for cheap fee that we don't compensate. Yes, I fully agree. I fully agree. In fact, architect Liao also commented the same thing. Okay, so any more questions? Let me see.
Not at the moment. I think maybe we can proceed.
Okay, yeah. Okay, we move on. So
Yeah.
we can save some time for the end. Another case I want to, actually I maybe don't have much time. So I just want to highlight here, there is a case, architect Lim Yok Tiang against Matrix Concepts and Central Sdn Bhd. This case is actually talking about skill minimum fees. Skill minimum fees is only govern architect. It won't govern another party that you are contracting with, which is developer. So if let's say you not follow, that is your problem. It won't actually bound the other parties to have some legal action against them, right? So as an architect, please bear in mind that please follow skill minimum fees. I will share this. Hold on, I just close the chat. I will share this case law. Case law is the law which has been passed in the court. Whatever cases that you go to court, then the judge make a judgment, that become a law and a case law to be followed. The principle of law behind the case, that is called case law. Okay, so I will share with it at the end of the session. I'm just trying to figure out on this. Architect David, yeah, I think perhaps you can help me on this. Right, my second story. Let's move on. And please go to read it out. If let's say you're really interested on what is the dispute is going on and what is the detail of the dispute, right? There's a long judgment on this. Okay, my second story is on the contractor and the developer. So perhaps many of you will think, developer have dispute, but how is it going to affect us? And when contractor have dispute with developer, is architect going to court in? So what if both of them team up? What will happen? Right. So this is one of the case that I just settled it a couple of months ago. In fact, yeah, I was engaged for a bungalow project extension and renovation. So of course, this is very common. The developer know the contractor and abang ade that kind of thing lah. It's a 1-unit bungalow, but this client of mine, he wished to go under the company's name so that he can claim something from it on the business point of view. So he has his own preferable contractor. So I'm no issue with that, so long they can work together, and I'm fine, in fact. So as usual, contractor, after they finish a certain stage of work, they actually submitted their progress claim. Then once you receive the progress claim, we actually will go to site to do evaluation, and then we will issue our certificate of payment. That is a common process, right? And actually this contractor has keep on telling me he had issued a lot of invoices, but he cannot get the payment. A lot of unpaid invoices still pending. So that time, I think still very early stage of my career. And to me, I'm very busy every day with a few projects running and management of the project. We have to go to authorities. I think that is a very common job as an architect. So I just listened, but I didn't really take a serious action on it. I just listened because to me, you are abang adik, you can actually talk whatever you want to talk and then just go and settle it out. So just don't come and bother me. This is my thinking, which is a very wrong mindset, all right? And what happened in this particular case, which linked to another case, after the CCC of the house has been issued to the developer, he just happily moved in. So what happened was time flies. 3 years later, this is 3 years, I was shocked as well when I get the things that come back to me and haunt me. this particular contractor, which is the managing director of the contractor, I didn't deal with him before, so I don't know him. I only deal with the project manager. So he called me up. He said, Miss Heng, I heard that you know how to SIPA people, is it? I said, yes, I know, but what can I help you? He said, I want to SIPA my client. Oh, okay. So do you heard about SIPA? I heard about SIPA, but I don't know about SIPA. So I said, okay, fine. Please arrange a time and we shall meet up. Let me have a short presentation with you what SIPA is all about. At least you know before you embark into the proceeding. So it's more fair to you rather than listen to me, but you have to understand the whole spectrum of it, how SIPAs work. He said, fine. So one day I went to his office, and it's a very small office, and we just talked in a very small room. So by then, after we discussed about the case that he's going to SIPA, is so-called main con. For this particular case, he worked as a subcon, so we want to SIPA the main con. He then tell me, hey, Miss Heng, since you have this SIPA as a solution for me to get back my money, I have another case I want to talk to you. I said, okay, sure, why not, since I'm here already. Then he bring up this case. I was like shocked. I back off. It's like a big rock hitting me, you know. Then I said, do you know who is the architect for this project? He said, yes. Then he flipped through the file. He said, S.I. Heng architect. Do you know the architect behind the scene actually is me? He also shocked. Then I said, it's okay. Let me hear from you what you are going to share with me. So I see this as a karma lah. Whatever goes along comes along, action and reaction. That's why I said, don't take things for granted. Don't simply just let go things that the comment, complaint, or whatever come to you. We have to filter it through, because this is the real life things that happen to me, which is karma. I listened to him, and he, of course, not really get angry, just that he cannot get back his money. What he wants is only get back his money. So I said, let's see what I can help you on this. So he said, for this particular project, only extension of bungalow, I only claim for 180K, which is in total the last sum that they haven't paid me. And then the developer have a set off of defect, which set off the 180K in total, you know. Of course, to me, I need to assess, because I cannot simply take it as it is. And I asked for document. He said, no, I don't have sufficient documents, because we are abang adik those days. Now no longer abang adik. We can't talk to each other. We fight with each other, in fact. So cannot talk. It's not in good talking term anymore. I said, okay, then fine. So what can you give it to me so that I can help you to go and SIPA, or maybe I can help you to find another solution to resolve your case? He said, oh, well, I don't have document, but I know a lot of things about him. I said, for example, I know that he'd have done some renovation, which is not following your plan after CC has been issued. Okay. Then he also told me that he have a lot of illegal structure extended, which the developer quietly asked him to do, but nobody's actually discovered that. He said, I can actually go and complain to this authority and then let them go and actually dismantle or tear it off, so that I can go in another way to challenge him. I was stunned and I was shocked. I just cannot, I don't know how to respond in that particular moment. So I said, look, SIPA can only help you if, let's say, you have a sufficient documents or evidence. So I don't think so you have a strong case in this particular dispute that you have with your so-called abang adik those days. Then he started to grumble again. He's not happy with my this opinion lah. But okay, we just carry on. I said, never mind, let me help you to settle the first case first, and then you try your very best to get any other documents that you have, WhatsApp, email, or whatever things that you can give it to me. Then we sit down and talk. So the first case of SIPA that he's having actually already he win the case, but until now, I think he haven't got his payment yet. So there's another topic I'm going to touch a little bit later. We win the case, but the second case is still hanging, which the case that I'm engaged as an architect for a bungalow extension and renovation job. Soon after the first case he win. So for the case that I engaged an architect for this bungalow project, he actually caught in a litigation. The developer actually sued him for defective work on site. So of course, I was very worried because I'm the project architect and the architect who actually handling the project. I don't know how is it going to affect me. And when talk about defect can come in many the root cause of defect. What I'm trying to say, the root cause of defect. So when we talk about defect, it could be defective design cause the defect. This is the things that I'm very concerned. Or it could be wrongly selection of the material, which is not suitable to use, and then happen to be a defect. So all these things come into my mind. So I'm actually very kanchong already, very upset. How am I going to settle this so that it won't drag, it won't go beyond on the situation that I can control now? And this case actually, there's a lawyer handling by the developer side. And obviously this contractor, they have no money to engage a lawyer. So he come back to me, asked me, what can I do now? So I said, you have no documents, how are you going to fight? Even I can help you, I also cannot help you to fight, because without document, you want to fight for something, you must have bullet. You don't even have bullet. How to fight? You have the gun, but you don't have bullet. So no point. So I sit down to visualize the whole situation scenario with him. And he also did hint me, said he actually did talk to the developer. They was thinking to actually bring me into this particular dispute. Then I was like, die. This time, I don't know how to get myself out, but I must settle this before it gets worse. So I worried about the complaint go to Lembaga. I need to spend time on this. And time and cost is always my biggest enemy. I have no time and I'm not rich. If let's say everything going to happen on me, I need to go to court. I need to engage a lawyer. How much a lawyer fees is going to be? Big question mark for me. So what I did was, I said, look, okay, let's sit down and see what we can do to generate some idea. And then hopefully we can actually go together to talk with the developer so that we can settle it amicably. Are you okay with that? Of course, before I want him to agree, I have to come out with why I want him to agree, right? I have to convince him. So I told him, you have no documents, you have no records, and records, we ask for contemporaneous record. You cannot create a record now and then say that you have the record. That is not a very good evidence for you to fight for the case. And I also told him that I'm a mediator, so perhaps I can try to help in whatever way I can by using the skill that I have. So he said, fine. He also okay with that. He's quite accommodate. It's not that harsh, pushy kind of things. Of men. So we went and talked. So we managed to get, not the first round, after few rounds of talking, how many times have been wasted on that. So they managed to settle. I'm very happy with that. And he's willing to compromise. Instead of taking 180K, he take back the 85K, which is he's very happy with that. And I come up with a settlement agreement, which both parties, lawyers, of course, his side, he just managed a friend, so-called friend's lawyer to help him to get through the settlement agreement that I have drafted. And the other side, of course, they have their own lawyers. So both parties' lawyers have read through the settlement agreement and they make some comment. I already amended it, and then few rounds of ding dong, the kind of talking, and they managed to settle and sign the agreement. So I also told them, if let's say you want to make sure the agreement is legally bound, you can actually go and enforce in court if let's say you want to. If not, then it's okay. So long both of you keep the document and then you follow, you just abide to what has been agreed. So no future dispute is going to happen. And you can't sue each other or sue the third party, which is me, into this particular dispute that you are having now. So they agreed. So I'm happy with that. I just managed to get myself off from this dispute a couple of months ago. Yeah. Right. So again, lesson learned. What is the lesson learned from Jomo in construction dispute that I want to share here? Letter of award. I want to add in one more, limit the liability. Just for example, in the scale of benefit, if you, let's say you are aware, if let's say the consultant is appointed by the developer, then developer is liable for their performance. It's no longer you as an architect which is liable. So I want to do something similar. So I put it into my letter of award. Of course, I don't know whether it's work or not, but until today, touch wood, nothing happened, right? So of course, I want to make sure every project that I'm handling now, they must use Pamnc contract. We have a small construction contract as well. So why not we just adopt, because that is already is already ready to use, rather than without any contract and then abang adik talk, that kind of thing. They just sign a very weak letter of appointment without any breakdown, only with my drawing. So that is very dangerous when you want to administer the contract. Of course, you have to have a very regular monitor on the project, the process, the payment, and why payment is not done. You have to really, on that particular time, to deal with it. Don't drag until a couple of months or couple of years later. That is too long. And you may not remember what they have done, or they may not remember what they have done as well, right? And then the evidence cannot be taken upfront. And do a periodically follow up, keep on follow up. So you must keep your own record good in every project. For this particular project, what happened? Or what are the issues that going to happen or already happened? Have you settled? When are you going to settle? When is that going to settle? There must be a deadline. And then how are you going to settle? There must be some steps, right? So this is my own personal story, which I have learned from my own case. So Jomo in construction dispute. Again, I would like to hear from all of you here. What is your view, or you may have a better solution that every one of us can learn from you. So please share your thoughts with me by having questions in Q&A box, or maybe you want to text in the chat on your opinion on this particular dispute that I'm having now. I'll give another 5 minutes for this so that we can move on after this.
So far pretty quiet. Actually, this is quite interesting. If there is a dispute between the contractor and developer, for me personally, I haven't really encountered any of this, but sometimes I will be a bit capable, knowing that most of the contractors or their subcontractors, they are not very good with paperwork or things like that. But sometimes when they complain, I will say, you better do your own record in case anything happens later. It's also for our benefit, because if there's any dispute among the subcon or contractors or subcontractors and the client, it will also bite us, because we will have to be some sort of a mediator or give them some resolution. So I always tell them, I always capable one, no harm being capable. Please put in record any of these things.
Sometimes it's good for us to remind them, it's not so-called capable, because we don't know how the things will move on, and then until one day they want to come and revisit, you just can't get anything.
Yes,
the
exactly.
Contemporaneous record is very important. And then the developer and the contractor, they always like to just verbally talk, instruction also verbally given.
Exactly.
So everything verbal, ask for document, I don't know. Especially VO. Yeah, I think VO case is very, very tedious on the records. All right, I see. Okay, I think architect David Yap have commenting some of it. Everyone can see the text, right? I do believe. So architect Jeffrey Chow is actually saying, I also agree that friendly parties between client and contractor are the most dangerous type of project. Yes, you just don't know when architect will drag in. Okay. Oh, so sorry to hear that your case ended up in arbitration. It's a very lengthy process. In fact, if let's say the case ended up in arbitration, it may also ended up in court one day. And back to the architect's role, when case ended up in arbitration, you will actually call up, I do believe you will be called up to testify as a witness of facts. And you need to spend time to trash out the documentation that you have in your office too. So let's say your filing system is not that advanced, okay? So you spend a lot of time in just to trash out one-side meeting minutes, photos, a WhatsApp, and email. All this is time taken. And then by having all this dispute, when are you going to focus on the work that you are enjoying the most, which is designing, going to site, looking at the so-called, the design is our baby, you know, looking the growth of the whole baby and the bond of the baby. You just don't have time. So back to, as an architect, I think we have to protect ourselves by having a very, very good documentation system, which I'm going to share with you after this. All right, anything else? I can't see any questions. I think, shall we move on?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, let me share my screen again. Okay, now there's one case that which in between L3 Architects and Berhad against a PCP Constructions in Berhad. This is a High Court case in KL, which is recently year 2020. And in this particular instances, actually PCP Construction sue L3 Architect in session court, but I think they managed to win the case, and then L3 Architect take the case, go to High Court to appeal for it, and L3 Architect win the case. PCP suing the L3 Architect for breach of duty of care as an architect with the issuance of this interim certificate of payment, so-called. So this is also a very interesting case. So far, I cannot see any case, or I didn't come across any case whereby contractor managed to sue architect successfully. But what I want to remind all of us here is don't underestimate the creativity of the lawyer. We think as an architect, we are very creative, but you haven't met a very creative lawyers yet. In my daily life, on and off, actually, I have to say 80% of my life I'm dealing with lawyers. Because sitting as an adjudicator or arbitrator, I deal with a lot of lawyers, and they are super creative person. You just can't imagine. Right? So be very mindful, keep a very good record for yourself, and have to be very sensitive on every single issue that people bring to your attention. So don't get caught like what I have been. All right. So let's move on. Another part I want to talk about. Yeah, the two cases that I'm in is actually talk about SIPA. But don't get me wrong, I didn't get any single commission by promoting SIPA in this talk. I'm not marketing manager of AIAC, just that I'm involved. So I try to see the way that I can get myself out. And the second case is because of the party actually want to engage me as a claim consultant to fight for their case. Eventually, I managed to help them, but there is only a paper award. All right, so for those who don't know SIPA, maybe it's just a rough idea. SIPA intention is very simple. It's actually to allow cash flow in the construction industry. Maincon didn't pay the subcon. Subcon cannot continue the work. So that's why subcon suing the maincon to get back their money, right? And it's a speedy resolution, only take 105 days to get the award out. Adjudication decision, we call that. And it's only a rough justice, which means whenever you get the decision, you need to go and enforce in the court. So by having that enforced, do you think the losing party will actually give up so easily? The question is, the answer is no. So the challenges that I observe as a SIPA consultant, as an adjudicator, is SIPA, the adjudication decision is actually temporary finality, which means you get the case, you win the case, you have the decision with you. There is only a paper judgment, I call it. And the other losing party may take this and then to set aside in court. All right. And then you may go through litigation process. And at the same time, the one party that losing out, they may actually come back to you and then to sue you and go to arbitration. So you have to be very mindful on all those things. Excessive court challenges are just like what I said. especially recently, there's a lot of cases have been set aside in court, which means the winning party cannot get back their money, but they have to put themselves in such a situation that they have to go for litigation, fight very hard in court to get back what they want. So high cost exposure, of course, you need to engage lawyer when you go to court. Even though you caught yourself into arbitration by having the SIPA cases that you win, you also need to hire a counsel, be it legal or non-legal counsel, to help you out in your case in arbitration. So that is also cost impact. And then time again, whether you have time or not. And architect, when construction dispute happen in between main con and subcon, you need to testify in court or in the arbitration as a witness of fact. Are you paid to do that? You are not. You do that because you are the architect for the project. You know the fact. You have to go there and tell the truth. So time taken, right? So don't put ourselves in that situation. And having SIPA is actually encouraging a lot of claim consultant in the market. And some claim consultant, they actually claim their fees is very high. There's no standard fees for claim consultant as what we have skill minimum fees. There's none. Some claim consultant, they just want to do a lot of quantity. They want to get more quantity of the SIPA case. So they keep on taking up the cases by charging very low. Again, back to the balance of the fees that you pay and the service that you get, right? It's cheap fees, you can get good service, or you can get good service by paying cheap fees. I leave it to you to ponder over this question. And I have come across a case whereby main con actually called me up. He said, I got SIPA by my subcontractor, but it's too late for me to actually get you in to help me because I get the decision out. And then the subcontractor win the case. The dispute is only 8,000 something. You know. He just don't want to pay the subcontractor because he said, I still have defect to deduct. But the fees that he is going to pay by having the decision decided by the adjudicator is 30 plus K. Can you imagine why 30 plus K? I asked him, oh, 20K already go to the lawyers as a claim consultant to submit the claim, help the subcon to submit the claim. So what can I say? I cannot say anything. I say you should pay it first and then only see how to talk and then get the things done. Now, instead of paying 8K something, you are paying 30K plus. So I can't help anymore. So this is what I meant by high cost exposure sometimes, not only in SIPA, but in another arena that you're going to settle a dispute. And remedies to recover payment. Sadly to say that SIPA have a very good intention, which want to get the cash flow in the market so that everybody can work. The site can progressively continue working without any cash flow problem. And that will also help us as an architect. We no need to have so much of headache because of cash flow, work cannot done, and then EOT come in, all those things come in, you need to assess, right? So sadly to say that SIPA, very good intention, but still there's no good way to recover payment. For winning party, they can just get a paper judgment, but they cannot get the money. Just like the second case I'm in now, a few months ago. Until now, he still cannot get back his money, and so fight very hard, nego very hard, still cannot get. So what's the point, right? Unlike others jurisdiction, I think in Australia, they actually not allow the developer who lose the case, who have lost the case, to not to pay. They have to pay first. Only they can renew their developer license or contractor license, that kind of thing. Let's say main con suing subcon, subcon suing main con cannot renew their license until they pay. Paid first, only they talk. But here, I can't see any platform for all this so that we can help those people get their money back first before they proceed further on what's the next for them to settle their dispute, right? I'm not discouraged to use SIPA, but you have to use it wisely and you have to look at the general idea, your situation. You have to sit down about your situation now versus the other party that you're going to sue and how likely your chances of success. It depends on how much documents that you have. and also whether your documents is strong enough to support your case or not, right? So again, it's records, very important. Okay, I hope I have shared roughly some ideas about SIPA. So don't just blindly go and SIPA without knowing anything. Or people said SIPA can get back the money in between 105 days, and then you just go and jump in and go and SIPA people, SIPA a developer. No, you have to do some homework first, right? Okay, let's move on. This is another interesting part, which is how to avoid future dispute. Now, there is a clauses called risk management in ISO standard. I don't know whether how many architects tuning in today is actually ISO certified company. So this is what I'm going to share with you, the very beautiful clauses here. My company is not registered with ISO. I don't have ISO certified, but I've learned something which is, I think I can adopt. Instead of adopt the full system, but I can adopt some of it to help myself in my daily practice. So ISO actually stand for the International Organization for Standardization. Don't ask me why is ISO, why is not iOS. Yeah, I can't answer that. You have to ask the drafter of this ISO standard. Now, in risk management, talk about 4 things: identify, prioritize. By prioritizing, you need to have some risk assessment, right? And then you need to mitigate also. And how to mitigate? By having some control plan. So lastly, by having the control plan, you need to monitor the action that have you take. So let us zoom in into more detail on this. Remember the 4 pillars: identify, prioritize, mitigate, and monitor. So let me bring you through one by one. It's not that complicated, just need some basic understanding, then you can work it out on your own. So when talk about identify, we have to look at what is the factor, what is the issue we want to identify, and then what is the effects. So talk about factor, we have actually internal factors, we have external factors, we have interested parties that's going to affect us. So internal factors, what are those examples? Poor document. These are internal factors that will affect us. Incompetence of the staff, or maybe like, for example, me, I have no experience in designing hospital. Perhaps I'm not competent enough to take up the project, right? Of course, you may say you can actually try it out and then try to explore and then learn. Of course, I fully agree, but I will try to evaluate my part first before I taking up any project, whether I have time or not, whether I have that knowledge or not, whether I can get someone to actually assist me, or maybe collaborate with some architects which have the expertise on this or not. So the competency, very important. So financial, especially during this pandemic, we are facing some financial problem. We cannot collect payment from developers. Things are not running smoothly. So financial is actually internal factors will affect our practice. Then what about external factors? Pandemic, COVID pandemic is one of the very good example. So economy, technology, right? Interested party is very straightforward. Developer is an interested party. Contractors, purchaser, supplier, consultants, last but not least, the local authority. We need to deal with them. So they are one of the factors that will affect our practice. Now, because there are too many factors we can talk about, let's choose one, which is poor documentation. And poor documentation will have the issue of VO, variation order. Normally, when VO submitted to us, we need to assess whether is it a valid VO, and then who give the instruction to change, to omit, or to add additional things on site. So the contemporaneous documentation is very important. So a lot of VO given by developer to the contractor is like verbally. So by verbally giving instruction, later on contractor will come in and submit. And as an architect, do you keep the record or not? Or whether you heard them saying something like this on site or during the site meeting or not, then you should take necessary action to say, hey, look, now you have a VO verbally given to you. Can you please confirm the VO with the developer, ask them to sign off? So if let's say drag too long, they're having a problem, it may also back to you having a problem or assessment. And yeah, when contractor developer has some argument, you will be caught in between as well. So revised drawings, there's some systematic system need to be set up. So I fully understand as an architect, we can keep on designing from A to Z, ended up developer or the client will choose A. So if say you don't keep the proper record on every revision of the drawings, or too many people handling one project, and each other may change the drawing, amend the drawing. For example, one draft person will actually handling a few floors of the high-rise building, and then the other one handling few floors. So how is it going to coordinate in between them? So you must have a system on this so that you can get the correct drawing when you want to issue out. So what is the effect of all these issues that you have? You will get complaint from developers, complaint from consultants, your drawings is not up to date. We are not looking at this drawing anymore. You are using the old drawing, right? And SPA drawing error. This is very common. It's very dangerous. I have come across a case whereby the this end user come to me, want me to investigate what is happening on the SPA drawing. And actually it's very Pamnc. I just try to roughly let you all know what's happening. And I don't know how the architect's going to handle this, because obviously when they sign the SPA drawing, the house is actually selling as 4-story house. They are paying for 4-story house, but what they get after CCC is only 3-story. So can you imagine how serious is that? So I do believe there must be some misunderstanding, or maybe they didn't keep a contemporaneous record on this particular things that happen, get caught by this purchaser, because very obvious, 1 story less, it's not about small little things, internal wall is not there. Come across also the wall is not there, must have a window, don't have a window, that kind of thing. So revised drawing have to keep a very good record on that. And who is going to bear the cost if, let's say, all these issues turn up to us, and then after investigate, we are the one who is not handling the problem carefully, and the drawing issue out is not up to date, then contractor went and just go and construct based on the drawing that you just issued, which you believe that is the latest, but it is not the latest. So who is going to bear the cost? Right? So these are the effects and impact on us. And all this is a risk to an architect. Okay. Now we already finished up identifying. So the next step we are going to do is prioritize. We need to have some risk assessment. So of course, there's a lot of factors. Just now we have internal, external, interested parties, all those factors. You need to list down every single factors in order to have a risk assessment process. So for this, I only can do one to share with all of you some concept, which is a poor documentation. So you can have a list of maybe 10 incompetency, poor document, and then technology, pandemic. Okay, you list it down, and then you will come to this issues again. You need to identify every issues from the factors that you identified just now, and then you need to identify the effect of that particular issue that has been that happened, or maybe it will happen. So you just need to foresee, sit down and think, and just write it down. And with all those factors that you list down, perhaps there are 10 items, you need to work out the probability, how frequent these things happen, and what is your current control on these particular issues that you are having, and what is the ranking. Out of 10 issues, 10 factors you are having, based on the probabilities, which is the top 3 that you must solve it immediately. You must solve it no matter what. because that will give a big effect on your organization. Okay, after prioritize, you need to think about how to mitigate with the control plan that you are going to put in. So poor documentation, again, back to, do you have any sign off records or not? For example, some defect you already checked and contractor already rectified, already accepted. Have you done any sign off or not on the particular defect that has been raised and submitted to you? Or you have done some amendment of plans, and then the developer or the client asks you to amend further another version. So after another version has come out, they are very happy with that and ask you to proceed to do the submission. Have you get them to sign off or not? Very important, okay? Put everything verbal instruction, verbal agreement into writing. I have a habit, whenever people give me verbal instruction or verbal statement, so sometimes talk through the phone, I will actually sit down after hang up the phone, after the instruction, I come back to office, I'll just sit down in front of the computer, I draft an email first. If the best you can do is drafting an email, just draft an email first. If the things is very serious, for example, you foresee that this will likely happen to caught you into a dispute in terms of cost, then please put it in a letter format, which is more formal. So if you don't have time, just put it in an email first, because SIPA recognized email, all right? But best is do it in a letter form. So do it, keep that as a habit, no matter how busy you are. Just quoted the conversation you have with who and who, when and when, where is it, and then what are you talking about? Record all that down, what has been agreed upon, what is the disputed statement, and then what is the consequences of that. You can just record it down and then send it out to the party that you're having conversation with. Filing system. So again, it's very important to have the filing system in a proper manner, and there must be hard copy is one, and then soft copy is another one. You may have a secretary to help you to draft the letter, and then how the soft copy is going to keep. And if let's say you have a project architect also handle the same project, sometimes the project architect may want to access the letter and then amend it in order to issue another letter prior to the previous letter scenario or situation. So all this system is very important, especially you have so many people handling a complex project, all right? So superseded, I'm aware there are some people still don't practice this, whereby the documents or letters or drawings which has been superseded, keep it a habit, you just get a superseded chop, just chop it up. So everyone know that that is actually no longer used. You can still keep it as a record. In case things happen, you can still flip it through, get it out from your file, say, see, look, this is the copy that I have, which is already superseded and has agreed upon to just scrap it off. And we have a new set of drawings or new set of documents here. And this is also to prevent wrongfully taking the documents which is not supposed to take to present to others party or to send it out to others party. Of course, cancellation, you also need to do that. This is very important. These are some basic control plan which I can share today, in particular on these internal factors. Right, so after mitigation, we have to monitor what is the control plan we have put in and whether the control plan we put in give us the result that we want or not. If let's say you are happy with the result, you're happy with the control plan you put in and it has helped you to actually prevent a lot of dispute that you foresee, or it actually help you to stop those dispute which is ongoing, then you should actually keep the control plan with you, keep on enhancing it, right? And review it on and off, then or maintain certain things, certain plan that you have, and then make some changes on it, make some improvement. And yeah, you have to change and improve regularly. So these are the basic things that I can share and that I adopt which I think is very helpful for me, but I'm not too sure whether it's working for you or not. Perhaps you can try it out. Another tips I want to give away is from my own experience. I have actually collected 8 tips of dispute avoidance. First is awareness. We have to aware what we are doing. In Chinese, we always say that 活在当下. That means you have to know, you have to present at the moment. When you sign a check, when you sign a plan, when you sign a submission plan or whatever, you have to know what plan are you signing? Is that the correct one? Right? So you have to aware what you are doing. You do have to have some foresight, meaning you have to sit down before you agree or disagree on something. You have to think ahead, the consequences of taking that action, the consequences of making that statement. I know it's very very 麻烦. We call it very troublesome, or everything you also need to think. You have no choice, especially like in WhatsApp, right? When there's a group chat, contractor saying something, and then we go and respond, okay. Okay means a lot of things. The implication of getting the okay out. When you send out the okay or good, what does that mean? Whatever that you have in mind may not the same as what people receiving the message of okay. So you have to have some foresight when you want to text someone, email, or say something, right? That what will happen when you say something like that. And perspective. In Chinese, we call it like 换位思考, meaning you have to put yourself in other people's shoes when you want to act. I have a habit, especially with my work, which is very sensitive, dealing with lawyers and very scared of them. They are very creative. Every single thing they can challenge you. So I have a habit whenever I draft letter or issue email or instruction to the lawyers to comply with certain things that I want them to comply with. I will draft it, then I put it aside. Then I come back and revisit. I look at it again and again by putting my shoe in the receiver part, that when they receive this, what are the questions that would raise? They are likely to raise and then put back to me. I look at every single letters, emails, or text. When I throw it out, it's like throwing out a ball. So make sure the ball don't bounce back to me. Then my job done. I can move on with another things. If let's say the ball keep on bouncing back, you bounce back again, and then they also not clear about what you want, they can write to you and then the ball bounce back to you. So how many times can you allow this to happen? And this is talking about not only one project you're handling so many projects and then dealing with so many people. So it's good that to pause for a while and then give some thought on how are you going to address this, and make sure that no questions will come back to ask you why this, why that, right? So this is perspective. And evaluate, remove, or reduce. Like what I just shared, we need to keep on evaluate the control plan and remove all those which is not helpful to you, enhance it, make some improvement, make some changes, or perhaps it's too much for you, you just reduce it. So these are the simple, small, little things that we can do for ourselves to avoid dispute. And of course, protect ourselves. How are we going to protect ourselves? In the world today, we are talking about documents, evidence. Everything is evidence. When you talk to people, they will ask you, do you have any facts to support you? Do you have any evidence to support you? Do you have the documents to support your statement? When was that happen? Can you show me? So this is how we try to protect ourselves, to keep a good contemporaneous record. It's not the record created later when issue happened. It's a record that created during that particular moment before the construction dispute happened to you. So that is the contemporaneous record, okay? So you have to discuss with your team member, call up a meeting. I don't know how many companies are doing that. In fact, I learned this from Law and Law Architects. I have been working there for 4.5 years. So Mr. Low has keep on conducting regular meeting every week. Call project architect in, call designer in, call the council staff which dealing with council matters in, and then call the draft person in. Everyone sit down, and before the meeting, actually, we need to write on the whiteboard what are the projects that we are handling now, and then roughly at which stage lah. It's not that very long statement, just a simple one. And then when meetings start, everyone will have a chance to talk. Then we'll have a new deadline, whether we can comply or not. If let's say we cannot comply, why? And can we adjust a certain way? And we have some follow-up. This issue happened last 2 weeks. How is it now? Whether it has been resolved or not. So that is very important. And then update. Bosses always like us to update what is happening rather than wait for them to come and ask you what is happening. So please update. Even though as a boss, we go out to get some job coming in and to office, and whatever we discuss with the client in between, we need to update, right, the subordinate, our colleagues in the office, which is working on the plan. So don't keep everything to yourself, just update. So makes everyone know what is happening. They have overall picture, what is going to happen, and then how likely they will actually avoid not to delay something that which is very important, and they have to do it immediately. So that is how things work. Review and change. So keep on review the way that we deal with people, we conduct meeting, we communicate. We need to review and make a change for a better self, which I should say. Perhaps for me, I can be talking very bluntly, but not everyone like to hear that. Perhaps I don't have the intention to hurt people, but people, when they receive the message, they take it seriously. So this is only about communication, you know. How about other things in our daily life as an architect? When we practice, we're dealing with contractor, developers, right? So we have to review every single things that we are doing. And then we must make a change when you know that something not right. You shouldn't keep on doing the same thing over and over again, because the result will tell you, things will hit you and will give you unnecessary headache. So you can just very stubborn, keep on doing, but you will actually feel it. The effect will be on you. So just keep on review and change. Always have a backup plan. If let's say plan A cannot work, what is plan B for you? So this is what I always have in mind. Preventive action. I always like to have this. After these dispute avoidance tips that I've shared, this is not exhaustive. It's just based on my own experience and my over the years collection, as so called. And you can actually enhance it, or perhaps you think no need. There are certain things you can just no need to do. You already have a very good record. You don't need to protect yourself more than that. So it's fine. So I just leave it to you to have a free hand to do whatever you want. I just shared whatever I know and I have learned from a hard way that I am facing with my own case, right? Link back dispute with dislike. Do you think that having a construction dispute is just having fire only? Every day we are having fire here and there. And as an architect, we are just acting like a fireman, keep on busy putting down the fire. But is that our main job? Can we do something different to avoid all this happen? I always concerned about the time. Every morning until the end of the day, I keep on complaining why time flies, why so fast, I have no time. If let's say when the things that I always thought, I always argue, or I always remind myself I have no time. So what should I do? Can I afford to caught myself into construction dispute or not, which will actually give another burden on me on the cost? I may need to look for lawyers, right? I may need to look for a third party to help me to handle this project, but there is cost on me. So whether can I find a balance or not, so that I can enjoy being an architect and provide a quality job to my client, provide a good quality service to my client, and just enjoy what I'm doing without worrying about the cost. So have you ever think about fire? Just now I put out a photo architect is just a fireman. We keep on busy putting down the fire. So how are you going to define a good fireman? Do you think a good fireman is a person who are very skillful to put down the fire? Or a person is actually doing a lot of preventive job, right? So to me, a person who actually keep on doing preventive job will be a good fireman. We have to stay focused, on what we are good at, on what we are passionate about, by not having busy putting down the fire in our daily life, so that we can actually proudly to say that, yeah, I'm an architect. When people ask you, yes, I'm an architect, rather than when people ask you, no, I'm busy. What are you busy about? I'm busy putting down my construction dispute fire. The fire is everywhere. So ended up, people might as well just call you as a fireman. You are not an architect. So it's good to have some preventive action on whatever things that we do in our daily activity now. Back to this question, just now I posted at my early presentation. So when you're having a migraine or headache, what will you do? Right? A, I don't know. B, take Panadol and rest. C, ask why. D, I have one more answer to choose, how to avoid. So which one will you choose? I would appreciate if, let's say, you all can participate in the chat so that I know your answer. Okay, let me see. Yeah, I can see.
I will go
that
for
a lot of
B
people...
first. Take Panadol and rest. Then after a fresh mind, ask why and think of how to avoid.
Smart you. I should say you can choose only one answer, then you have no choice already. Then which one will you choose?
D.
You B, ah? Oh my God.
Immediately is D.
Okay. All right. And see C, D, D, but
Yeah.
C. Okay, thank you for your response. Let me share with you my thoughts on these particular questions. This is linked to the construction dispute, which is giving me headache for many, many years. Now, whoever who chose A, actually is just what you think, it's just a box, your mindset with you now. I can see you choose A, nothing will happen. And the worst thing will keep on happening. That is what I can see. And for those who choose B, Architect Zawa, so it's only a quick fix. I think earlier on, Architect Liao also chose B. It's only a quick fix at that particular moment, but does it help? Don't know, right? So for those who choose C, it's actually a corrective action. You only correct, but whether are you solving it or not, like once and for all. So for those who choose D, it's actually proactive, being proactive. Before things hit you, you prepared for it. And sometimes no need to wait until things hit you, only you go and correct it. Or maybe you can learn from others people's lesson, just like my two painful lessons that I've learned for myself and I share with you just now. So being proactive, it actually can prevent a lot of things, bad things from happening. Okay, so we have come to the end of the session. I will wrap up with a summary. Whenever we get a project brief, it's only the tip of the iceberg. Do you agree with me or not? So whatever you can't see is a possible risk. So I always say, when I get new project, right, I won't get so excited like those days, Now it's like, okay, I just sit down and think first, whether should I take or should I reject? So I'm not like extremely happy. Oh, no project, now new project coming in. I'm so happy with that. No, this is not my mode now. So I will just ponder over what is the possible risk that I'm going to put myself in, especially those developer which is not really genuine, right? They may just only want to get your proposal and then get someone else to do it for free. So you have to be very careful and think ahead. So in our daily life, we always do a lot of decision making. So as I said, people can only give you advice, can only share their experience with you, but decision is on you. How are you going to deal with it? Which decision you are going to make? And any decision you're going to make, it will bring you to the different consequences. So you have to have an overall picture on how is it going to be, at least some projection, because no one can tell you by taking the A decision, A will lead you to a successful path. By taking decision B actually will lead you to the no ending worry. I don't think so. There are a lot of people can foresee that. Even the fortune teller tell you something, I don't really think that that is 100% correct. So make a wise decision by having a broad picture on what is the situation are you facing now. So for me, I want to have a joy of missing out in construction dispute, but how? How are we going to have the joy of missing out in construction dispute? So in summary, follow the scale of minimum fees, so you will be safe. And in your letter of appointment, put down dispute resolution clause, dispute avoidance clause, all right? Then no discount, stand very firm on that. And put in late payment interest. If let's say a developer can charge liquidated damages on contractor, why as an architect, we cannot actually impose this to the developer, right? When they keep on dragging our payment and we are not doing charity. So long you have done your job, you are being very impartial, you are fair, you are not biased. So you can actually put down every single things in your letter of appointment to protect yourself, protect your own interest, because no one will protect you when things happen. Even you go to the lawyer, do you think they will protect you 100%? No, they just deal with the law. What is the right, what is the evidence that you have in order to help you to fight for your case? So you have to protect your own interest. Put in the late payment clause, late payment interest clause, and then no conditional payment, back-to-back payment not allowed. Limit your liability, and you must have a risk management in your own company, your own organization, to let you see what are the issues that you are facing or what are the issues you are likely going to face in future, so that we can take some action on it. And be proactive. Be proactive. Take a lot of preventive action plan. There's no shortcut for this. And have a backup. Plan B, plan C. If let's say plan A cannot work, that is very important. Okay, I'm going to leave you with this. Nothing will change unless you change. Okay, thank you very much. I'm mindful of the time now. Is 11:43 a.m. I'm ready to take questions if let's say there is any. Let me stop sharing my slide first.
Thank you, Architect Heng, for your sharing. We have one question at the Q&A box. Leong Truk Hwa asked, on your opinion, the architect employed by contractor in bungalow design, then the contractor have dispute with the bungalow owner, and the architect in this case responsible to bungalow owner, particularly on the CCC, and then the contractor instruct architect not to process CCC. What is your opinion?
Okay, as an architect, just like you know that your role and responsibility has done in certain way, and a certain stage of the construction has been completed. Have you complied with all those? Have the contractor complied with all those? Then if let's say you think that it's the time to issue CCC because all the requirements has been complied with, then why you want to hold back and listen to the contractor or listen to the developer? You have to act impartially. You have to stand at your own feet. You have to know what you are dealing with, what is the scope, what is your role as an architect. Cannot be biased. When you do something, there must be a reason for you to do something, but don't get the instruction from the third party to ask you not to do this, but you have to do this. Then you are not impartial, you're not independent anymore. although you are engaged by this employer, but you have to stand at your own feet to evaluate what is the do and don'ts as an architect. Yeah. Or else you will likely caught yourself into a construction dispute later. Yeah. That is my simple answer to your questions. I hope I answer your questions. Okay, any questions that I can see?
Can I ask a question, please?
Yeah,
Zawa?
sure. Architect Leong, go ahead.
On that same vein, you know, architects, can they use the issuing of CCC as a kind of like a tool? You don't pay me, I don't issue the CCC. It's quite
Okay.
common thing that
Yeah,
comes up.
yeah. Then you have to weigh it because we bound with our letter of appointment with the employer, and CCC is nothing to do with CPC. So long the contractor part, they can just go ahead and move on by issue CPC, then it's fine. But CCC is something to do with developer and you, right? So I think it's very common for architect to on hold CCC until the developer paid the amount. So long you can justify yourself why you want to take the action, and then you think you are act fairly and impartially, then just go ahead and do it. I understand that the worry will, just like my first case just now, by issuance of, it's the stage of issuance of Form B already, approval already obtained, construction drawing is in place, but I still refuse to issue because a big question mark whether they will pay me or not. And if let's say,
absolutely,
yeah. So I hope your answer your questions are just that we need to put down some logic thinking to protect ourselves, our own interests as well. Yeah.
So back to Leong Chok Wa's question on that, because he's employed under the contractor, but I think you are right that we shouldn't be controlled by any party when we issue CCC. But if it's the dispute between the contractor and the bungalow, before we can issue CCC, the contractor also need to sign the Form Gs.
True.
So they can actually, the contractor can actually talk to the owner on this matter, rather than instructing the architect not to process CCC. Once he signed the Form G, that means, and we feel that it's ready, then we have to do what we have to do. Yeah. Okay. There's another question, anonymous. Can you share the emotional stress that you have to go through during the process? Do you think it's worth going through this process?
Okay, if you ask me this question, I can't give you a very clear answer. Just that when I want to go through the process, I don't know how stressful I'm going to face. What is the kind of stress that I can take? Whether I will caught myself into depression, or I don't know. I just keep on moving because I know I have to get myself out. But until today, I'm still surviving. And the question I always ask myself, whatever action that I take, there is a result to tell, and whether I'm happy with the result or not. If let's say the answer that I can give myself that every day I wake up, am I happy with the result, with the steps that I take, with the stress action, with the action that I take that caused me some stress? Yeah, I'm happy with the result with what I'm doing. A couple of years ago, even a couple of months ago, I just settled my own dispute. So I'm happy with the result. So that means I'm in the right path. So the question you should ask is, when I've taken this decision, am I brave enough to face the consequences, no matter what happened? Because you won't foresee so much or so many things that will happen on you. You just can foresee maybe one or two of that can happen on you. So same goes to me. I won't foresee that there's so many things will happen on me as well. So when the dispute already settled, of course, along the way, I struggled. I try to find a way out. I try to find a solution. But along the way, I have gained something. I learned something. I picked up something. I met with a lot of kind people who's willing to help me, to lend me their helping hand. And then they're willing to coach me and guide me through. A lot of mentor in life. And that actually opened up my mind in a lot of things, that I can see things differently from different angle. And yeah, I think that's the process I went through, and I'm happy with the result, although I may be very stressful in certain period of time. But to me, in life, we have average life, let's talk about 70 years. We have average of 70 years. At least I only spend maybe 5-6 years on the stressful dispute that I'm having, but it's still worthwhile. Maybe without the dispute, I won't be here today. I won't be sharing with what I know today, or I won't be taking a lot of preventive action to prevent myself to enter into another dispute, which may happen on me. Yeah. So it's a lifelong learning kind of thing. Stress, you have to know how to manage the stress you are facing. And yeah, that's the way that we should carry on our life. There's no fast and fast rule on this. In fact, everyone everyone have different ability to take stress. So you have to manage it and manage it wisely and carefully. Yeah, you should be okay.
Agreed. I saw Mohammed Hussein raise his hand, but unfortunately, this is a webinar session. You can only type your question if you have any. There is some questions in the chat box from Jeffrey Chia. With the temporary finality of SIPA, should architects submit claims for outstanding fees against developers who have large resources to pay lawyers to appeal in higher court? And should we not take legal action directly at the courts instead of SIPA?
Okay, let me read the questions again. With the temporary finality of SIPA, should architects submit claims for outstanding fees against developers who have large resources to pay lawyers to appeal in higher court? Should we not to take legal action directly at the court instead of SIPA? Okay, first of all, I need to understand your situation first. Just if let's say based on this particular question, which is in general, I would not suggest to go for SIPA as well. The best is sit down and talk to them first, because you know, as architect, we are quite lonely in a lot of things that we are doing. We don't have a lot of people back us up, especially the legal counsel, that kind of thing. And developer, which is very big, big company, they will have their in-house legal counsel. They have their resources to pay lawyers. It's good that to sit down with them and ask them what actually they want, why they still stop paying you, and is there any things that perhaps we are not aware of, is our own mistake, but you need to find out the underlying interest lah. So that's why if let's say in your case, you can actually try to talk to them and then understand more about what is their underlying interest. Perhaps on the surface, they would not want to pay you as what you claim, but behind the scene, what is their thought, what they actually planning to do next. So try to understand that part. Then by having understand that part, if let's say it's very unreasonable, so perhaps you can actually talk to them, okay, since that we cannot agree on certain amount to be paid off, which I think I'm entitled for, but you think that I'm not entitled for, why not we get a third party in? For example, we can get perhaps a consultant, or you can go for mediation, get a mediator to sit in to look at the whole things, who is right, who is wrong. But bear in mind, when you go for mediation, it's not you will win all the claims that you want to claim. You know, the mediator always want to discover what is the underlying interest of both parties, and you want back your payment, but you still maybe have your concern, right? So what is your concern? That are the things that the mediator would like to understand, so that he can get both parties' interest to be met at that particular time. Then it can be settled with some discount you may give to the developer, or the developer may just give in, maybe prolong the submission, or prolong the payment by break into few payment to you. Maybe they are facing some financial difficulties, all those things, but they didn't reveal it. So we won't know the underlying interest until we sit down and talk. So try to discover another way of dealing with the fact that you have. Yeah, the fact is you are entitled for your claim, but what is underneath that? Why they don't want to pay you? Yeah, so that's my take on the situation that you're having in. I still not advise to direct jump to SIPA. And because there's a case, very sad news during this pandemic, I think a couple of months ago, it's my ex-colleague actually told me this. I know the contractor. The contractor actually suing the developer for SIPA case, and he lost the case. After he lost the case, The developer don't even want to let him go. And the developer take the case and file it in the court, you know. So the developer come back and sue the contractor in the court. It's a Penang company. So the contractor eventually, I think, went to depression, I suppose to, before he committed suicide and he died. So this is a very sad case. So sometimes not too worth it to take a drastic action like what I have taken in my first case. To me, I don't know why that time I'm very gung-ho. I just want to try it out. I don't have any intention. I don't even think about the developer. When they lost the case, they can bring the whole case to the court to set aside the decision and then bring me up to the high court, court of appeal, federal court, the kind of thing. That will actually put me in a lot of stress, and I don't have the money to appoint a lawyer when you go to court. So you have to think about the whole scenario, write it down, list it down, and then see which is the best way to deal with it. Don't go beyond what your limitation is lah. And financial is one of them. We don't have really a strong backup like a developer. Yeah.
Dr. Heng, can I just share something, what you just said just now, if I may?
Sure.
I have an experience actually. It's a small thing. We've done a submission for the building plan. I don't know, umpteen times now, basically. So the cost of the printing comes up to about 7,000 ringgit. So basically, you know, we claim for the money, but the developer has made us wanting us to explain each drawing, what they are, what size. There are about sort of like 400 drawings, you know. By the time I get my staff to do that, it's going to cost me 10,000 ringgit to you know, do the explanation and all that. So in the end, actually, like you say, because of a financial commitment and things like that, I decided to just walk away from it. I'm not quite sure whether that's the right approach or not. But like you say, you have to look at the condition, you know, whether it's worth pursuing or not. Otherwise, it's so stressful to get back 7,000, but you spend 10,000 doing the legwork, you know. And some developer do that just to make it difficult for you, I think. Not all, but you know,
So my another questions that I'm going to ask you is, perhaps you can share your thoughts on this. Seems like you already have this experience. So in future, in your next project, what can you do to avoid the same problem happen?
I think I put out something like, you know, to be prepared, really. We were not prepared because a lot of us architects, we assume that the developer and other party behave like us. We have our moral compass, you know, at this level. And so we think they all behave similarly to us, but actually it varies. So to answer your question, I think it's really to be prepared, keep a very, very good record of the paper trail. Then in the event the thing blow up, because we all play with the same rules, the rules are the same, but people don't follow the rules, you see. So the records are very, very important, I think. What you've done, what you say is all very, very good. In fact, I really admire your tenacity and your strength of character. It's not easy. I can tell you that.
I'm full of bullet hole already, in fact. Okay, maybe I want to add in something that we can do something come across my mind just now. Instead of talking to the developer, which not sharing the same thoughts or same level of morality as us, as what you mentioned, why not we cast an expectation? Be very blunt to them in the very first beginning. Tell them what is the things that are going to charge them and why. Be very blunt, so they take it or leave it. But at least you tell them upfront. So that means the expectation is there already. They know how you're going to charge them, which part you're going to charge them, and then which drawing you're going to charge them. Or perhaps your fees is not inclusive of the printing fees. You have to tell them upfront. So by setting that expectation, they won't come back and say, no, I only talking about this expectation. How come you quoted so high? Your expectation, you expect us to pay you additional things which we are not aware of. So just sometimes it's good to be blunt, especially for the first meeting, or else they will think that as an architect, we are easy to bully, and they will just hide certain things they want to disclose to you, and then later part they will come. That will trigger another dispute because the expectation is different. You talk one thing, they talk another thing, they bring in another new issue to actually stir up the whole situation. So that become worse.
I mean, I think in this case, the developer knows already. So he's thinking, oh, 5,000-7,000. By the time I ask him to do all the donkey work, he wouldn't want to claim for the money, you know, because like you say, we already said to them, okay, these are the term of engagement, you know, extra drawing, blah, 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 and all that. There are people like that, unfortunately. So I think sometimes it's just better to walk away if you can. I mean, not everybody can, because sometimes the cash
you have
flow
no
is very
choice.
big. Yes,
You have no
so,
choice.
yeah, I'd rather go and say, okay, you take the money and go and have a meal.
So as an architect, we shouldn't put ourselves in such a situation because we already done our part. So we have to learn. We have to learn new trick to how to protect ourselves by being more creative rather than creative in designing, but we can creative in another way, how to protect ourselves. Yeah.
I think so. I totally agree with that.
Yeah. And I think on the charges on this printing fees, right? For me, my adjudication and arbitration case, actually I keep a very contemporaneous record, meaning that when I issue some instruction to them, I need to post out to them and I can claim for the fees. I'll immediately record that particular day, what had I issued, and then how much it cost me, then what company, for example, I go for GDEX, right? So you have the waybill number, and then I keep the waybill together with as the attachment 1, 2, 3 lah. So I have to really, this is like every day I'm doing this. It's not like I collect 1 month and do it because I just cannot handle too many things. So perhaps you can assign someone, maybe your secretary, to do that on the billing, the printing, and what is the size, what are the drawings. You need to keep that record. I know it's very tedious, but you have no choice. You won't know when is the next is going to happen to you. So try to get some a way of get rid of this. Yeah.
I think developers don't play by the same rules. They'll pay you, you know, but you make you sweat.
Thanks, Architect Liao and Architect Heng. Time is actually running out, but perhaps we can take 2 more questions from Chai Kim Kwek and Kong Poi Ng, then we will wrap up.
Okay. From Chai Kim Kwek, I can see you did mention on the claim consultant which third party may engage to challenge the opinion. Okay, let me share this one first. You did mention on the claim consultant which third party may engage to challenge the opinion of architect in issuing out quality of works. Any advice? I don't really get the message. Or Zawa, can you explain to me? Because I'm so sorry, I don't really get. You did mention on the claim consultant.
There may be a bit of confusion. The claim consultant that you mentioned is more on other on what is available for them to claim, but not so much on challenging on the quality of works, right?
Yeah. So I afraid that I can't help you on this. Or perhaps if let's say you want to keep in touch with me, I will drop my email in the chat box. You can actually send separately to me. I will try my best to assist on this. Yeah. So sorry about that. Okay, I think we move on to Kong Pui Ng. How to recover fees from developer who declares bankruptcy but somehow still living luxuriously? Okay. This one, you need to go and get a lawyer already. If let's say you really want to fight hard on this, and before you go on fighting for this, you have to think about your situation. What is your baseline? How much can you actually afford for this? And how much the time that you have to go all out. So once you started the lawsuit, you engage a lawyer, I can tell you so far for my case, I think the developer will go all out. And developer is under Sendirian Berhad, is a company. So you cannot, the company and the person is totally different entity. You cannot sue them. just like us as an architect, sole proprietorship, you will get sued. But if let's say you open a company as a Sembilan Berhad, you are still safe, because whatever things that you're going to sue for damages or whatever, the cost they're going to claim is under your company. Unless it's an architect negligence, then they will sue directly under you, which is your name as an architect who signed on the plan. Yeah. So you have to figure out how much time you have and whether you have sufficient resources or not. And bear in mind, a lot of, we all due respect to the lawyers in the construction industry. Some of them, they claim that they are construction industry lawyer, but honestly, not all. It's very handful of them. And some don't even know how to read the plan. You will be shocked. So how are they going to help you in your case, right? So you have to be very careful in selecting the lawyers that you are going to help you in your case. And by getting the right lawyer, the fees will be very high. I can tell you, construction industry lawyer, not that many, right? Yeah, that's my best that I can advise you. Yeah.
In this case, it's really not very easy how you want to prove and how to, you really need to get a lot of proof to show that. Yeah, you're right, get a very good lawyer. Okay, I think we should actually wrap up now. Thank you.
Okay, I just share my, so sorry I interrupt you. I just share my email in the chat box. So whoever would like to connect with me, or maybe just now some answers that I couldn't address it because I don't really get the real message of your questions. So perhaps you can drop me an email. I want to share the case just now I was mentioning, just accept the first case, Lim Yok Tiang. That case I still searching out, but this is the second case. You have time, please download it and read it out. Yeah. So these two things I want to share with all of you here. So thank you very much for your precious time. I'm very glad that I can engage with all of you here today. So I learned something. Yeah.
Sorry, See Imm, I think you shared to just the host and panelists.
I'm sorry.
Need to share to everyone.
Okay, let me see.
While Architect Heng is sharing it in the chat box, later please remember to jot down the sign-off code and fill in the Google form or CPG points.
Okay, there you go, my email.
Yep.
Okay, another case law. All right. Okay, this is the case that L3 Architects being sued by PCP Construction, but they failed to sue. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Heng, and
very much.
Thank you everyone for being here today with us. Also, thanks to our Pamnc Northern Chapter Secretariat and the tech support from Garis XL. Thanks to Architect Trong who arranged this seminar for us. Very beneficial to everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the team that worked behind the scene as well. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Thanks. See you. Architect Liao, I can't hear you. I think you are muted.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very, very insightful sharing.
Thank you very much.
I learned a lot very much.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Stay safe.
Yeah, hope to see you all soon.
Stay safe.
Yes,
Thank
yes.
you.
Yeah.
Bye. Bye.
Hope to see you
Thank
again.
you.
Bye.
Bye.